cellular respiration test Friday? I don't know any of this stuff. What am I going to do?
Don't worry. I can teach you everything you need to know about cellular respiration.
Cool. Let's dive on in. I'm so confused. I mean, there's Krebs cycle, electron transport chain, glycolysis. I'm a mess.
Well, don't worry too much. Let's start with the basics. Okay. So here's the equation for cellular respiration. You start with sugar and oxygen. And after cellular respiration, you get carbon dioxide, water, and ATP.
This makes sense already.
Alright, first, there are two forms of cellular respiration, aerobic and anaerobic.
Wait. What is the difference between aerobic and anaerobic?
I was just about to get there. Aerobic uses oxygen, and anaerobic cellular respiration doesn't use oxygen.
Oh, so it's kind of like when my mom does her stair steppers for her aerobics and she uses lots of oxygen, right?
Exactly!
Cool.
Let's talk about aerobic cellular respiration. There are 3 steps: glycolysis, the Krebs cycle, and ETC, or as I like to call it, electron transport chain.
Whoa, there are 3 steps to just one type of cellular respiration? How am I supposed to remember all of this?
Well, don't worry. After I taste to see you, it's going to be a piece of cake.
Cake is easy to remember.
So let's talk about glycolysis, the first step. During this step, glucose, or sugar, is converted into pyruvic acid, to ATP, and to an NADH.
Wait, doesn't pyruvic acid help in the next steps?
Yep, you got it. And do you remember what ATP is? ATP is what the cell uses for energy.
Alright, so let's take a look at the Krebs cycle, the second step of aerobic respiration. This step takes place in the mitochondria.
Oh, mitochondria. I can remember that.
During the Krebs cycle, the pyruvic acid from the glycolysis is broken down into CO2, and one more ATP is made. How many total ATP is that?
3 ATP.
Yep, 3 ATP.
Remember that long step I was talking about in the beginning, electron transport chain? Well, this is the last step of aerobic cellular respiration. So, this part is when the high energy electrons pass through the electron transport chain and change the ADP into ATP.
Okay, I have a connection, and I can connect it to cookies. So, I could say that the Krebs cycle is like a big oven, right? So then, when I put raw cookies, or ADP, into the Krebs cycle, then the gas that flows through it, or the electron transport chain, heats up the raw cookies and turns them into cookies. So I get ADP to ATP, or raw cookies into delicious cookies.
Exactly. And also remember, water is formed during this step.
Yes.
Guess what? We've finished all the steps of aerobic cellular respiration. Now we can talk about the products.
Thank goodness. Okay, so we're talking about the products, so we should go back to the original formula that we learned for cellular respiration. So the products, or the total, should be carbon dioxide, water, H2O, and ATP.
Yeah, there are 36 ATP to be exact.
Oh my goodness, that is a lot of ATPs.
Yeah, but your cells need to be able to perform work, don't they?
Oh yeah, that does make sense.
And also, heat is released.
So that's why my mom's hot and sweaty after her aerobic exercise where she uses oxygen and she sweats up a storm.
I love those connections. Keep on going. Stretch. We're almost done. Let's talk about anaerobic cellular respiration. Now, remember glycolysis?
Yeah, I do. That's what we just learned about aerobic cellular respiration, right?
Yep, but it also happens during anaerobic cellular respiration.
I do remember you saying that.
Yep, and so after glycolysis, if the cell is not receiving any oxygen, it will go through a process that is also called fermentation. Now, there are 2 types of fermentation: lactic acid fermentation and alcoholic fermentation.
Alcoholic fermentation. So that shouldn't happen in our bodies, right?
Right, but let's talk about lactic acid fermentation first.
Sounds like a plan.
So, can you give a guess what is produced during lactic acid fermentation?
Maybe some kind of acid involving lactate?
Silly goose, it's just lactic acid.
Oh, okay.
And 2 ATP. Don't forget that. So let's go back to your mom working out. Does she ever complain about having sore muscles?
Actually, yeah, she does. She's always asking me to give her back rubs.
Oh, that's not cool. Well, that's because of the lactic acid that has built up in her muscles. Her cells weren't getting any oxygen, so we went through lactic acid fermentation.
Oh, so now when my mom asks her to give her a back rub, I can be like, nope, sorry, Mom. It's not my fault you didn't give your cells any oxygen.
Going back to what you said before we talked about lactic acid, alcoholic fermentation. Like you said, it doesn't happen in our bodies. It happens in other organisms like wheat, yeast, and grapes. It's when ethyl alcohol is produced.
Gotcha, okay. So now we know what my grandpa's talking about when we pull out old fruit from the refrigerator and he says, oh, I don't think this fruit is good anymore. It's fermentating.
Exactly. So, are you ready for your test on Friday? Did I do my job?
I think so. I'm pretty sure I can give you the breakdown on cellular respiration.
I'm ready to hear
So
it.
these are the main points that I remember us talking about from cellular respiration. So cellular respiration takes sugar and oxygen to happen. So the first thing is glucose gets broken down, which is also called glycolysis. Then from there we either get anaerobic or aerobic. And aerobic takes oxygen, while anaerobic does not. From anaerobic we get lactic acid, which makes my mom's muscles feel sore, or alcohol, which we need for wine when things fermentate. And on the other side of cellular respiration, from glycolysis, after the 2 ATP are formed, we go into aerobic, which we said uses oxygen, because glycolysis is used for anaerobic and aerobic. So from aerobic, we go into the Krebs cycle, which is like the big oven where we put our raw cookies in. And the cookies get baked from the ETC, or the electrical transport chain, which makes us homemade cookies. And from that, we get 36 ATP. That's a lot of ATP. But the more usable energy, the better. Okay, so did I get everything right?
Yep, I told you it was a piece of cake.
Sweet. Well, I gotta go study for my test on Friday that I'm gonna ace.
Teach me.
Oh boy, I cannot deal with this again.
Uh-oh, I guess I'm going to have to teach it by myself.
Alright.